no matter how much you try to do, you're always going to be a little bit behind. And it's a really hard problem, especially when you talk about, large scale.
Yeah, it makes sense. So talk to me about, Garrick, the LLM vulnerability scanner that you have. What maybe run me through, a little bit under the hood of how it's doing what it's doing and where it's going to go in the future. And I'm primarily interested because I'm going to be creating like an AI security course, and a part of the course is like running Garrick on an LLM to like see what it gives me.
Well, that is very flattering and very exciting. Yeah, Garrick is great. I like it. I have a bias. Go figure.
Yeah,
But
slightly biased.
so still says LLM vulnerability scanner, and I don't love that terminology. Mostly because the concept of a model vulnerability is weird to me because models don't do anything, right? It's like what you do with the output of the model causes something bad to happen. You can exploit template injection through an LLM, and I have, but the LLM itself doesn't execute the code. It's essentially an AI systems security scanner, right? It's a weakness discovery tool. And so it started out, Leon Derchinsky, who's my beloved coworker and is a professor at ITU Copenhagen, also works with me, developed the thing initially. And in the early days of AI red teaming, it was really focused on like content safety. So like, can you get this model to say a bad thing? A lot of early jailbreaks are just like, I got this model to say a slur. And as a security person, as a human being, I'm like, that's not good. You shouldn't do that. But as a security person, I'm like, well, I'm sorry you did that to yourself.
Yeah.
That's not a security issue. There's no violation of confidentiality, integrity, availability. There's no explicit or implicit security policy that's been evaded. You just got a random language generator to say a word that we have agreed we shouldn't say in polite company or anywhere in some cases, right? Like some things we just don't need to say. So when we started seeing integration of LLMs into systems, Garrick got really exciting because now I just contributed a couple of new probes that do cross-site scripting. So what you do, right, what you see a lot is questionable application security being used in a lot of these LLM integrated apps. So people have you have your like chatbot interface, your web page, and then whatever the LLM says, you just output it on the screen. Well, if I can get the LLM to output open bracket script, whatever closed bracket script,
Right.
well, now we have cross-site scripting, right? And if I can get that in by, putting it in like a web search result and then entice it, well, now I have like cross-site scripting against users who happen to encounter, right? It's like a watering hole attack. And that becomes really fun and interesting because there's not a lot of like put validation being done on what these language models do. People just take the bot output and then shove it into whatever renderer. So I've written some probes for Jinja, which is a templating language in Python that's pretty common. Jinja's compositional. And one of the things that's really powerful about it is you can run Python code within the template. So instead of computing a bunch of placeholder variables up top, right? If I want to like compute the average of a list, I don't have to do like np.average my list in some placeholder variable and then pass it to the template. I can just run np.average my list inside of the template. And that's really powerful. But it also means I can run things like os.popen inside of a template. And if you aren't running a sandboxed Jinja environment, if you're just using a Jinja environment and going from string and trusting that the LLM's output isn't potentially malicious code, you're going to have a bad day. You have a real bad day. So, we've been really moving more towards the systems security evaluation rather than just pure models. And so when you evaluate a model, right, and we have generators that are basically wrappers for every popular LLM provider that I'm aware of, because a lot of the hosted models are using the OpenAI protocol. So we just have an OpenAI compatible wrapper, REST APIs. We have a REST generator, which is probably our most generic. And then we have like Hugging Face, whatever. So we have a ton. So however you want to wrap your model is fine. And if you're running against a system, you're probably going to use REST as the generator. And so we send a bunch of different probes to it. So you can configure the probes, you can pick one, you can run a whole suite of them. You can configure it however you like. We're working on separating the technique from the intent. So like the jailbreak, for example. Right now, your intent which is like, tell me how to build a bomb, which is a normal thing that people say on podcasts, is inside of that probe and it's all wrapped together. And so where we're moving is decoupling that so that you can configure what you want it to do. So maybe you want it to output malicious Jinja. Well, great. Now you can just ask it to do that and we'll apply the technique over the top of it. Maybe you want it to say slurs for some reason. Okay, great. That's your intent. Have fun. And we wrap the technique around it, right? So that's kind of the direction that we're going. And the idea really is we can evaluate these models and say comparatively, like model A is less likely to output my heavily obfuscated Python reverse shell inside of a Jinja template than model B. So model A may have properties you care about more. You can kind of assess it in all these different ways. But from the system security point of view, one of the things that I haven't figured out yet is doing kind of remote in a traditional like vulnerability detection point of view, where like a lot of times it'll have it ping back, but we don't have a ping back, right? It's just an open source project. We don't want your telemetry. Please don't send it to
Yeah.
me, right? But hypothetically one could write a pingback detector. And so you get the, code execution or whatever, and then it goes in and hits your pingback. And now you've got that, right? The way that I've been doing it is just writing like temp/Garak.pwned. And that's your IOC, right? You got code execution if /temp/Garak.pwned exists, which means it doesn't work on Windows. But like, it's fine, right? These are the limitations we have to overcome. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And we've been really moving more towards doing like real security assessment and exposing the weaknesses in the target under evaluation, right?
Mhm.
So, I have slowly been adding CWE mappings. And so, you get your template injection, and now you've got like CWE 77, OS command execution. You've got your CWE 10 something, which is your, template, whatever. You've got CWE 1427, which is improper neutralization of generative AI output. You've got all these different ones. And that gives you like a real security thing that you can use instead of these vague, like, I don't like the text that this model output, right? You can really map it to like not just security outcomes, but also security controls, right? You have cross-site scripting vulnerability, you have a CSRF vulnerability, whatever it is. Okay, well, we kind of know what to do with that. So now, like, we can start actually using this to identify security controls and where they need to go. So that's kind of the direction that we're going, is more into the systems security and trying to do the things that conventional AppSec products maybe don't do as well. Because, you can run Peach Fuzzer on your input form all day. But if that input form is going to an LLM, you may or may not get anything useful out of it. And our goal is to kind of be the thing that does that part of it.
That's fascinating. Is that what jailbreaking LLMs is, right? Where the LLM is supposed to act a certain way, and you found basically a vulnerability in it that allows it to act a way that it's not supposed to, right? Is that basically what it is? Because whenever I hear the term jailbreaking, I immediately go to like jailbreaking an iPhone or jailbreaking a Android phone, and
Yes.
now you can do whatever you want with it,
Yeah.